Manjunath sir, Naveen sir will start now.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome one and all. I'm sorry, my video is mute because of some technical issues. I welcome all to be a part of today's webinar, which is going to be moderated by Dr. Manjunath H, who is Principal and Professor, East Point College of Physiotherapy, Bangalore. We also have with us Dr. Naveen G, who is my good friend and Associate Professor of Physiotherapy with Garden City College of Physiotherapy, Garden City University, Bangalore. Today, he's going to talk about hand rehabilitation to improve handwriting for primary school going children. And I personally find it to be a very interesting subject because most of us, tend to see patients who have other medical issues. But this is something about the school children, which I personally feel even my child or anybody for that matter would require some help. So thank you, Dr. Naveen, for choosing this topic. And Dr. Manjunath, sir, please, very, very happy to see you to be moderator of this session. Thank you so much, and I wish you best of luck. Thank you, Dr. Manjunath.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Naveen, please carry on. And
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. I am very happy and pleased to be the moderator for today's webinar. I welcome you all on behalf of Karnataka State Physiotherapy Federation. Today, I'm going to introduce Dr. Naveen. He is a very good friend of mine. He has done his bachelor degree in Bangalore Medical College and master degree in MS Ramaya. His specialty was neurological and psychosomatic rehabilitations. He is a successful physiotherapist and he has rehabilitated various neurological conditions and balance training, and he has also associated with many geriatric aged people in rehabilitation conditions, and he is also has done various workshop, and he has conducted many awareness programs, especially in the geriatric field, and it is very nice to see him doing a webinar on hand rehabilitation to improve the handwriting, which is everybody's concern, especially during the exam time, which we are in the lockdown period now. So it will be very helpful for everyone, each parents, and also for the physiotherapist also. So when we are coming across with certain conditions like hand problems and other things. So I will welcome Dr. Naveen for this webinar. Naveen, over to you. You can continue. So first 40 to 45 minutes of sessions, you will have a presentation. People who want to ask question can raise the hands, or you can personally put a messages to me or to the Karnataka State Physiotherapy Federation. We will take the answers, and question answer session will be done in the last 15 to 20 minutes. Thank you, everyone. And Dr. Naveen, over to you.
Thank you, Manjunath sir, for that brief introduction of mine. I'm very happy here. Firstly, I'd like to thank Karnataka State Physiotherapy Federation for giving me an opportunity to take this very important topic so that I can share with all of my physio friends. So thank you everyone for attending this webinar. A beautiful good afternoon for everyone. So this particular topic, the hand rehabilitation to improve the hand function in the primary school going children was my one of the important dream which I was thinking, why couldn't we think of this rehabilitating the children who are school going children. So when I was thinking about this, and we had done a lot of literature review, and finally I came across a few of the things regarding the hand rehabilitation, and a few of the ones were very successful when I was treating few of the children. So in this topic. Today, I'm speaking about the physiotherapy perspective of how can we help the children to improve their handwriting. So you might have been facing, it might be your own children, or it might be your friends or anyone who can get into your clinic for the rehabilitation of the hand. So first of all, if you think of your hand, so the hand is a very important tool. So this is been characterized as a symbol of power and is an extension of intellectual behavior. And also it is a seat of will. Whatever is the will the person has, he brings out in the form of a hand. He does it in the hand. And some of our sociologists, they have claimed that brain is responsible for designing the civilization. When humans evolved, and from the Stone Age, if you look at, when the person was thinking of a lot of thoughts in his brain, he could not put it into a shape, or he could not put it into a complete picture. Only with his hand, he made a few of the ideas which was there in his mind, and that's how the civilization developed. The hand played a very important role in forming the civilization. That's how they formed weapons. That's how they formed many manipulative objects and many more, which helped them to progress their life to come into modernization. And one thing which is very much clear in this particular aspect is brain and hand, they are interrelated with each other. Whatever his brain is thinking, it has to be expressed through the hand. And hand needs a coordination from the brain, command from the brain to perform very efficiently. So they are interrelated to each other. So if you go that we have already seen a few of the grips which a human uses most probably. So we call them as apprehensions. So amongst them, we have the power grip. Here, if it comes to the power grip, we have a cylindrical grip. Then we have a spherical grip. Then we have the hook grip. Then we have the lateral prehension. And this is a part, a very important one for today's webinar. This is the precision handling. So here we have the pad-to-pad prehension, tip-to-tip prehension, and pad-to-side prehension. So these plays a very important role in today's webinar. So which I am going to discuss, it's more about on the precision handling, and which will be helping out for handwriting improvement inside the children. So if you go a little bit physiology of how a person is getting control of his hand and for helping out to have a very good handwriting, the primary motor cortex, which is present inside the brain, is responsible for execution of fine motor activities, even in the humans and as well as in the animals. So this particular part of the brain commands the hand to perform the hand activities so that it was very much helpful for doing precision handling, that is a fine motor activities. And also it is also responsible for a gross motor activity. Fine motor activity needs a lot of coordination, whereas gross motor activity is a mass effect which can see on the hand, but precision handling, especially the fine motor activity, is a little bit complex activity inside the human activity. So next one, which is related to the sensation of the hand. The sensation from the hand is being sent, the perception, the roughness, the smoothness, and how the object has been felt. Everything has been felt from the hand through the receptors, and the tactile receptors which are present inside the hand has been sent to primary somatosensory cortex. This is a sensory cortex which is responsible for taking up all the information regarding the hand, the sensations from the hand, which will be sent to the primary somatosensory cortex. In this primary somatosensory cortex, we have got 4 areas which is very much essential one. They are called area 3A, 3B, 1 and 2, which mainly coordinate with the hand sensations. And after the primary somatosensory cortex receives its information, that is the sensory information from the periphery, it is going to send it to a parietal lobe. And parietal lobe is a very important having a role inside perception of whether the hand has to open more, or the fingers have to be moved in a what direction, and how it has to be felt. The perception regarding the object and the execution of a fine motor activity will be shared by the parietal lobe. So these three areas of the brain are very much essential for hand activities. Then a very important task which is seen here is a use dependent organization. When the baby is being developing from infancy to childhood, so you can see that the brain is organizing itself according to the learned behaviors of the child. So as a child is learning day by day, the particular areas of the brain start to expand and they get extended, and the neural networks and the motor patterns starts developing inside the different areas of the brain depending upon the activity which the child does. So this is called as a use dependent organization. So the functional organization of the primary motor cortex is dynamic, and it changes happens according to the use. How you use your hand, according to that, the representation of your hand gets collected inside the brain. It is not the repetitive activities which you do will get documented. Even the task specific skills which you learn makes changes inside the brain. In the early stages of life, when the child started manipulating the things, if it has played more with the fine motor objects, fine motor skills, if it has developed, then that particular child has a tendency to have a very good fine motor activities. If the child has started to play more using the gross motor objects or the gross motor things, so it is having a memory of more of the gross motor objects rather than the fine motor objects. So this is what we can see. According to the change, whatever we learn, according to that, the brain going to get organized in the particular areas of the brain. So skill training or learning is a powerful force of reorganization. So but even when experiment was done inside the few monkeys, it showed that the two monkeys which was caged and was fed with, and it was fed with the pellets, that is food pellets, and the cup which was given for the monkey, both the monkeys, one monkey had a cup which is a little bit broader cup, and they had the food pellets which was put into them, and another monkey had the cup which was very much narrower, and food pellets was embedded one over the other. So in both of them, what happened was, when they felt very much hungry, the monkey which had a broader cup started to take it very easily and have it. But this particular activity got fed inside the brain, and the representation of this particular activity inside the brain was a little bit very less. Whereas the monkey which was put with a very narrow container, which was put into food pellets inside, it started to take up with a very fine motor with its index and thumb finger to take the pellets out. And this particular part, that is the primary motor cortex, was represented with a very good fine motor activity in this particular monkey. So this, according to the learning of each and every person, as a childhood is a space where a person will start learning. So what happens is, if you train them more with the fine motor activities, they are going to learn fine motor activities very better. If they have been exposed to more of gross motor activities, they will be developing gross motor activity, that is the power grips will be more developed in them. So, and a few of the studies which was seen, whether some in Indian scenario, if you look at whether the poverty has any effect on the hand skills. No, the poverty cannot have any effect on the hand skills. If you look at the kids which were playing, whose mother or father have left the children out, they manipulate many of the fine motor things. They play with the stones, they play with pebbles, they play with the sand, and all these activities show a lot of changes. So poverty doesn't have any role to play inside the hand functioning. So hence a child who has who is a very rich person can have very good handwriting, it's false one. Or a child which is who are very poor is having a very good handwriting, that is also false one. So it doesn't have, so it depends upon the child what it has manipulated, what type of objects it has manipulated. It depends upon that. Then, so a few of the studies which was done on the Chinese children and Americans show a little bit difference. Both of them, they started to use the hand for feeding themselves. Whereas the Chinese children, they started to use the chopsticks and more. And they had developed very good handwriting in this particular children compared to the Americans, where they were mainly going into pad to side prehension type of handling, where they were using their spoons and other objects. Whereas these Chinese children, they used their chopsticks, and they saw that very good skill of holding the objects inside the hand. So there are few things which are called as the building blocks, which will be very much necessary to develop the fine motor skills. So bilateral integration. It is the capable to use both right hand and left hand in a synchronous manner for manipulation of things or doing any of the activity. Of course, we have a right hand and we have a left hand. In both of them, one hand is going to be a dominant hand. So we use a dominant hand more. That is going to be our leading hand. The other hand will be helpful for the stabilization. That will be giving us a restraint for functioning for the dominant hand. So bilateral integration, every time whenever we are manipulating or whatever the things you are doing, bilateral activation is a very important aspect of developing a fine motor activity. Then crossing midline. So if you divide the body into two halves, so the right side and the left side, so the child should have the discrimination between the left and right. It has to cross from a right side moving to the left and moving from left to the right. So it should have this particular pattern where it is going to discriminate between the right and the left sides. So this is very important. So it's called as a perception. So if the child doesn't have the perception of what is right side and what is the left side, so it can have a little bit problem in the fine motor activities, because it always tries to cross the midline while performing most of the activities. So it should have the crossing the midline activity very good. Then hand and finger strength. So this is the ability to exert the force against resistance using the hands and fingers that allows the necessary muscle power for a controlled movement. So the hand muscles has to be evaluated inside the children. The children who have a muscular weakness inside the hand, very good strength is not there. They're not able to keep up a very good friction between the fingers. That is through the different thumb to the pads of the other fingers, or else they're not able to exert a pressure inside the hand. Once again, it is a drawback for rehabilitating the children with the hand dysfunctions. So in this particular case, hand and finger strength is a very important thing for fine motor activities inside the children. Hand-eye coordination. Hand-eye coordination is nothing but it is the ability to process information received from the eyes to control, guide, and direct the hand in performance of a task such as handwriting. So here, whatever is visually appearing in front of the child, so it should be able to put all the things whichever is able to see on the paper, or it should be able to manipulate according to the visual input which is going to come. So this is called as hand and eye coordination. If the particular image has been shown, the same image has to be represented onto that of the paper. So hand and eye coordination is a very essential one for the fine motor activity and also for handwriting. Hand division. So what is happening in a gross motor activity is we try to tend to use all the fingers, but in a handwriting, it is not that particular pattern which we have to develop. It has to be isolated to only the 3 fingers inside a handwriting implement. So using just the thumb, index, and the middle finger for manipulation of object, especially pen or pencil or whatever it is, a paintbrush or whatever it is, a child takes it inside the hand. So these 3 fingers are very much essential for manipulation. But whereas your ring and the little finger, they have to get tucked inside. They should be helping out, providing stability for the 3 fingers, that is the thumb, index, and the middle finger. They should be tucked in, and they should be giving a little bit of support to the index, middle, and the index finger, middle, and thumb. So the division of hand and isolating to use these particular fingers only is a very important thing. And the proprioception regarding the wrist movements. So whether the wrist has to be kept inside in your extension, whether the hand is in a functional position, whether there is a finger flexion, whether there is a movement inside the hand, all these things will be detected by the proprioceptors present inside the joint, and it will be sent to the cerebral cortex for the manipulation of the objects. So the functional position of the hand is a slightly wrist extension, and hence proprioceptors which are present inside the joints give a very important information regarding joint position sensation of the hand and the fingers, and the Golgi tendon and other things which is present inside the muscle supplying and crossing the wrist helps out in providing the proprioception to the brain. So these proprioception is a very important component. And postural control. So this is the ability to stabilize the trunk and neck to enable coordination of the hand and fingers. So in both of this, what is happening is the axial skeleton, the spine should be very much good. If the spine muscles are strong enough and the spine is in a very good strength, the muscles supplying to the spine are in a very good strength, the hands, shoulder, all this can function very efficiently, because the axial skeleton strength, the axial muscles are very much important for stabilization of the shoulder and the hand. So once again, coming to the shoulder stability, if a person who is having a shoulder weakness, directly he can have an impact on the fine motor activities of the hand. So the shoulder stabilizes in such a way that it helps out in manipulation of the object. So proximal weakness causes the distal inability and the distal muscle inefficiency. So shoulder muscles are very much important for the hand to stabilize them in such a way that a person can hold the objects, especially at the distal components, very efficiently, and to perform, shoulder muscles are very much essential. So the weakness of shoulder muscles can lose the grip inside the hand. So this is a very important one. So after all these things which we have seen, the building blocks of a very good manipulative skill and for handwriting, there are few things which can cause the person, the child, to have a very poor handwriting. And today I am limiting this particular webinar to only the peripheral dysfunctions, that is a peripheral weakness of the hand. I'm not touching out for any of the cerebral damages or perceptual dysfunctions, or it is a cognitive dysfunctions. I'm solely discussing regarding the causes at the peripheral level. So amongst this, practice of more gross motor activities more than the fine motor activities in the childhood. So the child morely plays, every parent wants to play them, cricket, baseball, and volleyball. So the child is playing more of the gross motor activity games rather than going for a fine motor. So the child is not much oriented to use the pebbles. The child is not very much oriented to use sand, playing in the sand. The child is not very much used to go and play your carom or anything like that. So all these activities, what it leads is, once if you initiate a gross motor activity along with fine motor activity, the children can have a very good control of the fine motor activity inside the childhood. So lack of fine motor control, improper visual motor integration, as I've already said, they are not able to put whatever is been seen on the image on the hand because of muscle weakness and loss of motor control. That is a muscular weakness. All these things can cause the person to have a very poor handwriting. And also one particular disorder, which is called as a developmental coordination disorder. This a particular disorder, it doesn't have any underlying pathology, and sometimes this can be the symptom of some of the conditions like ADHD. Sometimes it can be a condition of dyslexia. Sometimes it can be a condition related with a dysgraphia. But in this particular sense, there is no any underlying pathology. So developmental coordination disorder, so loss of coordination between the different muscles of the hand can lead into a handwriting difficulty inside the children. So how are you going to identify? What is a main concern how can we see that the child is having a difficulty doing the fine motor activity and writing using the pencil or any of the pen using them, handwriting is having a difficulty. So you can look into the behavior of the child. Whenever there is a problem with this, so they may avoid or refuse to participate in fine motor tasks. So they, whatever is the fine motor task, they will be refusing to attain and just go and do that particular activity. So the behavior can be very clearly understood here. And they are frustrated. Repeated activities, repeatedly they try to do that particular activity, but what happens is they have a failure. They're not able to do the fine motor activity. So they, when they fail, they try to take up some object, they drop it down. So after a particular attempts, after so many attempts, or else they hold it, but after some time they have the tendency to drop it down. So all these things leads to frustration inside the children. Then avoidance of these tasks. So when they have the frustration, these children try to avoid those particular tasks. They try to take the help from their parents more to do this particular fine motor activities. So in this particular, all the signs which are appearing to the parent, saying that they're not able to take a small objects, they always ask the mother or a father to do fine motor activity. Just you write the diagram for me, or do it this one for me. Just they come and ask it. This can be one of the sign which can indicate that the child is having less fine motor activity, and this is one which can sometimes bother the parents. Then the child is very good in orals. So the teacher is asking the questions. Whenever the teacher asks the questions very efficiently, it has grasped whatever the lesson has been taught to the child. The child has listened to the lesson very nicely, and it has kept everything in its mind. But what happens is it is not able to put it on the paper in a clear fashion. So the jumbling of the words, the shape of the words not to be a very good one. So all these things which can indicate that orally the child is good, but to put it on to the paper, the child is having a difficulty. So it is not that it is not able to write at all. It is a difficulty. The child is having difficulty to write. So whenever they are telling he is a slow writer because he is not able to hold the pencil, or he is not able to keep up that particular grip for a prolonged period of time, because it can, the classes can extend around 30 to 45 minutes. So in that particular case, he has to be in that particular grip for a longer period of time, is not able to do that. And after some time, he automatically loses his speed of writing. So all this can show that the person is answering good, but putting things on the paper is a little bit problematic. Self-esteem. So some children have a very good handwriting. So they have a very good strength. So what happened was they compare their handwriting with other children. So they try to compare what they have written with other one. So the teacher praises the student who has written a very good handwriting, and they have the chances of losing their hope at that particular moment of time when they compare with the other peers, so other classmates. So in all these things, first thing, whenever a child comes to you, if you suspect, you have to undergo complete history from the mother. So regarding the pediatric evaluation, you have to do a pediatric evaluation. If they say that the child is not able to manipulate the things or the objects properly, so definitely you have to do a thorough physiotherapy pediatric evaluation from starting from the history of the mother, prenatal, postnatal, and during the time of delivery. If you suspect that something is a problem, the child is born with the child is not a full-term baby, or during the time of pregnancy some complication was there, now it is having a difficulty, developmental screening tools according to that particular age has to be undergone for that particular child. So to look into the cognition, gross motor activity, and fine motor activity altogether. So if you notice anything cognitive dysfunctions are related to the brain damage or anything related to the perceptual dysfunctions, the patient can be referred directly to a neurologist, and neurologist can look into diagnosis of what the condition can be. And sometimes psychologically, they can have a different type of batteries, which will give complete diagnosis of any psychological issues that if the children, if they are facing. So developmental screening test has to be done whenever a child comes for evaluation for your handwriting. So this has to be kept in mind. And a very simple one which we can do at your clinical setup is Minnesota handwriting test. So this is a test which you can give to the child to see the handwriting if they have a difficulty with the handwriting. So whether they are improving or not. So this can also be a pre-test before you put them into a rehabilitation protocol, Minnesota handwriting test. So this particular test is a one where you can give it for 2.5 minutes. So the standard is 2.5 minutes. If the child is not able to complete this particular phrase in 2.5 minutes, you can extend and you can see. So the child, what it has to do is, it has to write this particular the sentence, that is, the brown jumped lazy fox quick dogs over. So why it has been jumbled without any type of meaning? So if the child is able to write it without any problem, you have to look into the quality of a few of the things regarding this particular phrase. So this phrase consists of all the alphabets, 34 alphabets. You have to look into the legibility. Legibility means nothing but, are you able to read that particular word? Are you able to read that particular letter or alphabet which has been written by that particular child is called as a legibility. And form. So form is nothing but whether it is flat or how it is the shape of that particular letter. That is called as a form of that particular letter. Look into the alignment. So how is it aligned inside the line? Whether it has crossed the line or it is come out of the line compared to the other particular alphabet. So this is called alignment. Look into the size, whether the size is same for both the alphabets. Is it uniform? So look into the size. So and spacing. So the spacing between the objects. So this spacing between your letters. So this can be the main things which you can do when you're doing a Minnesota handwriting test. So using this, you are going to score them, and this is a procedure. So this can be, you can just go through. So it takes a lot of time to explain regarding the manipulation, I mean the interpretation of this. So we can take down this Minnesota handwriting test and you can perform. So this is a paid battery. You need to pay for getting this Minnesota handwriting test. So using this one, you can quantify the handwriting of the child. So then we have arm and shoulder girdle strengthening. So we go into the rehabilitation of the child who has handwriting problem. So you came to know now the child is having a difficulty. So how the child is writing, how is it sitting, and everything has been now very clear to you. So what you do is you start with a rehabilitation. So first thing which you are targeting is mainly the musculoskeletal problems related to the spine and the shoulder joint. So what you do is you start with wall presses for the arm and shoulder girdle strengthening. Start with a wall presses. So this particular activity, the child, you can start doing this for 5 repetitions. So we can go and start doing 10 repetitions depending upon the child. So how much is a weakness you can assess through the MMT, and you can start giving wall presses to the children. First start with the wall presses. This is a very comfortable position. Then followed by that wall presses. Be careful that the child should not, while doing this one, it should not slip out and it should not hit the wall. So always you should be very clear and you should be very close to the child. Then you can start chair presses. So ask the child to get up from the chair. Getting up from the chair, do a few repetitions. So this is called as a chair presses, where you are targeting your the scapular muscles, elbow extensors, and also while going down, eccentric contraction of your biceps as well, and also a lot of pressure on your forearm and the hand muscles. So this chair presses can be started. Then ask the child to demonstrate a bear walking. So it's nothing but crawling like so bear walking, it should be walking like a bear. Ask the child, demonstrate how the bear is going to walk. So the child will start demonstrating a bear walking. So do a few repetitions of bear walking. The child will do it very interestingly and very eagerly. It starts to do this particular activity. It's called bear walking. Ask the child to do bear walking. Then ask the child to do a crab walking. Ask her how can you show me how crab is going to walk. So this is called as a crab walking. So So you can see that the child will start demonstrating. So you can go forward and backward. So while progressing into this particular activity, care should be taken. Shoulder instability should never be there. Only when the previous tasks have been completely completed by the child and you feel that this particular position is safe, then only you put the person on this particular safe, the crab walking position, or else don't attempt this one, and only limit your bear walking. Then you can start the child to show walrus walking. So where it is the completely the pelvis is on the floor, legs are on the floor. Ask the child how the walrus walks. So this is called as a walrus walking. So these activities strengthen the shoulder girdle. Followed by that, you can design your other shoulder exercise or protocols where you can strengthen the spine. So if the spine is not strengthened, you can put the children on the Swiss ball and start doing activities by stabilization, making the children sit onto the Swiss ball, and you can start doing a different type of Swiss ball activities. Then you progress to this particular activities. So this is how you can progress for these children. Then finger isolation. So using fingers like tweezers to pick up the objects such as cotton wool, small blocks, pastas, pasta pieces, raisins, frozen peas, or berries. So this is nothing but you have got the tweezers, that is forceps. You can just take a forceps. This is to isolate your index and middle finger, which is very much essential to bring them to make an all these things. This is very much helpful. So this helps out in the pad-to-pad prehension as well as tip-to-tip prehension. So this helps out in getting into the fine motor activity. So tweezers is nothing but your forceps. Put the cotton outside into a bowl, or sometimes you have raisins, nothing but the dried grapes, and the pasta pieces are frozen peas, berries, all can be collected and put into one particular bowl or whatever it is. So we can start doing this activity. Then poking or probing. So we can just give an imaginary lines, and the child has to pass through that. So this particular picture shows putting up a shoelace. So you can start putting the holes and ask the child to make different alphabets later on. So that is also possible. Here we don't have any children with a cognitive dysfunction. It is a problem with a motor aspect. So that is what. So we are trying to do them in such a way that their fine motor activities are going to be good enough. So poking and probing can be started. Then finger painting. Each and every finger, you put a different type of a paint to the finger. Right hand, so you have got different colors, put them to the your fingertips. So what you can do is you can just give a line. The children has to paste each and every finger. So start with the thumb, then go with the index finger. So ask the child to put the thumb imprints onto the line one after the other, not with a repetition. So this helps out to isolate the finger which he has to use. So this brings about the sense of individual fingers, and it comes to know the activation of each and every finger. So this is very much important. So the finger painting can be started for this particular children. Encourage the child to turn the page in the book by using his finger rather than his whole hand. So one turning out the pages inside the book, just to try to turn around the pages one after the other. Then very good one the children usually like is this finger puppets. These are nothing but dolls which will be put onto the fingers. So these items are now, it is extensively available on Amazon. Whatever the things which I have showed you, the play tools, these are extensively available on the online markets. So you can just buy them. So these are called as a finger puppets. So the finger puppets, you can just put these fingers, the puppets onto the fingers, and just you can ask them to move. You can give a different names for each and every doll, and ask the child move this particular character like Tom, Jerry, or whatever it is. You can just give them the names and ask the child to remember that particular doll and ask the finger to be moved in different directions. So the interaction with this brings about the isolation of the finger. So index finger has to be sometimes more, if you want to use more of the index finger or any other fingers, so you can use the sand also. So like a sand, finger paint, and corn floor, all these things can be used for the isolation, and ask them to draw the different alphabets, shapes, and depends upon what he likes to do on inside the sand. So this brings about the sensation, the sensory tactile stimulus to the different fingers by stimulating the tactile or receptors at the different regions of the fingers. So this is to isolate the fingers. So this can be started. Then pincer grip. So pincer grip, which is mostly lacking in most of the children. That is, put the child to ask the child to do on a pegs open with the thumb and the index finger. Just you can give the clips. Ask the child to just put the clip all the papers or cloths or images onto a thread using your clips. So that is using the pegs. So just they are going to press it and just they are going to release it. So this brings about a pincer grip inside the children. The other one is making a plate of into a small shapes, pinching a plate of sausage with the thumb and the first finger. Just you can make a roll, a snake, then afterwards break it into the small pieces. So that also can be there. And also you can use just like they prepare a chapati atta. So just you can just roll it and then you can try to fold it. So different activities according to the child's interest, you can frame and ask the child to break it one after the other. So this can be done for the pincer grip. Then afterwards, so buttons are beads which can be embedded inside the clay which you had already given. So you can embed those beads or the small objects inside the that particular duff and ask the child to pick one after the other, take out from the duff. So this also can be done. So this helps out in a very good control over the finger to isolate to that particular object and pick them up. So this is a one activity which you can start. This is called as a pincer grip. And inserting the coins into the piggy bank. So just give a few coins and the piggy bank, the child has to deposit the coins inside to that piggy bank. So these activities also can be given. So one rotation of all the coins has to be put in. So this is called as a piggy bank activity. So the next thing is this for the stabilization. You know, the children try to keep one hand over the paper or the book and another one at the dominant hand, they take out the pencil and they try to write it. So for the stabilization and to use both the hands together, so we need to have two hand activities. So in the two hand activities, you can start stimulating both the hands at a time. So that is like tearing up the colored paper for pasting, paper match or a collage activities. So you can give a different papers, let them tear it one after the other to make a collage or whatever it is. Later on, you can give the glue and you can paste it, or else you can give an image. Let them, with the hand itself, let them try to cut it with a tearing according to the edge. So we can start doing according to your convenience. So tearing up with the both the hand with the both the hands, and also you can start giving squeezing of the cloth. So child can be given cloth to squeeze if the particular parents and all if they doesn't like to do this particular activity, you can you can see that this can be avoided. So you can start giving the squeezing of the cloth inside the water. This brings about a very good gross motor as well as using of the bilateral hand activity. Then after all this, you made an attempt to give a pencil to the child. So whenever you do this hand activity, so encourage the child to hold the pencil between thumb and the pad and index finger like a bird beak, and the pencil then rests on the middle finger. So you can start giving a pencil. So give the pencil and see how the child is able to hold the pencil. This is one which is having four edges, six edges onto the pencil. So if the child is able to hold comfortably, no any problem, you can try to continue with the same pencil. By chance, if the child is not able to hold this particular pencil, you can encourage the dynamic tripod grip by using a triangular pencil, which is already available in market now. This is called as a Triga. So this is a Triga pencil which can be given to the children. So it takes up the shape of a triangle and it comfortably sits inside the hand of a child. So the Triga can be given initially. Then later on, slowly when the strength starts happening and the child has having a very good control of the hand, so what you can do is you can just withdraw from the Triga and just you can go for the other pencils, normal pencils. So this is how you can start doing. And the next one, you can, if the child is unable to hold where it has to hold for writing, then you can just give a sticker or a rubber band or on a pencil to show it how to hold or where it has to hold. So we have got, this is a rubber tip where you can insert onto the pencil and give the child, ask the child to hold at this particular spot. So this can help out the child to properly concentrate on the object so that it can place it and do finely. So this is called as a pencil grip. Then so for if the person is having a difficulty, you can have one angled board also. So for the wrist stabilization, if the wrist is having a difficulty, you can start doing a wrist stabilization. Always whenever you have angled board, so the wrist is in a very good position to have into a functional position. So where you can have a very good momentum arm inside the hand. So you can give them an angled board. So keep it over the angled board and it can start writing instead of going on the flat tables. And most of the tables which are given to the child is slightly slanted, but still more if it wants just a little bit angulation can be given, and you can see whether the child can perform very good with this particular activity. So pencil control and fluency. If the child is not able to perform very good, you can come a little bit back and you can start doing the basic strokes of alphabets. So if you go to the primary, this kindergarten, so first thing is like standing line, sleeping line, slanted line. All these are the lines which will be taught. So what you can do is you can give this particular line activities, the hand activities over the line drawing. So how can we do this is mainly by giving this pencil control and fluency. So the activity which you can give here is so we can give a dot to dot. So we can look at here. So there is a one dot up and there is another one dot down. Without touching both the lines, the person has to draw a line straight away into this cross. So without touching on to both the lines, he has to draw the cross. So same thing, this is useful for doing on a standing line. If the child feels any difficulty in this particular one, you can once again go back and try out the appropriate method to rehabilitate this particular child. So try to concentrate and try to put the line in the middle without touching both the lines. So this is the one, and this is called as dot to dots, and you can put it on a horizontal to make it on a sleeping line. So we can give it in a horizontal position to practice a sleeping line. Then you can start giving mazes. So mazes is nothing but you have to tell the child that go to the point in the middle. So you can have some character show, jog the way to go into that particular palace. So you can start from the dot, and the child will move all along the path on its own, and it tries to get inside. So this is how we can use the mazes. So this helps out in the circling. So the next gain which has to have the children after having a slanted line is forming your squares. So the child will start now learning a square, then followed by that it starts to learn the triangle later. So the last it will learn is a triangle. So matching one object to another also can be done. So here you can go for a dot to dot joining of the images, and different activities for most of the shapes which you want. You can write on a dotted line, ask the child to trace over that particular dot. All this can be started at this particular moment of time. If you see that the pencil has come into a control. So now the pencil or a paper, the pen has come into control, and the child is able to place it properly, then you can start doing this particular activities. So these are the few of the activities, and you can start now going to your Minnesota handwriting test, and you can evaluate what was the status of the child before and what is the status of the child now after the rehabilitation. So this is all about the hand rehabilitation and how to train a child with a hand dysfunction that is a motor dysfunction for improving in a handwriting, and which is a entirely of physiotherapy perspective. And we can help the children by doing all these activities at our clinical setup. So this ends my presentation. Thank you very much. And if you have any doubts, you can discuss with me now. If you have any queries, I can discuss with you now.
I have a doubt.
Manjunath sir, you have to unmute yourself.
Hello. Ken,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Dr. Naveen, for wonderful presentation. It has opened up many eyes that is how our small children struggling to write and what are their difficulties, how it works, and all you neatly explained. Many questions the listeners are asking. I will. The first question I want to ask you is the small children, whenever they start writing, after 4 or 5 lines of writing, no, they will start getting a pain in the wrist and the forearm pain. So, what are the remedies that you can suggest that pain to come down, and also any aids which can relax them and then to go ahead?
Yes, it was a very good question. So when the child is having difficulty in this particular aspect, so we can do an wrist stabilization. We can start giving them a few of the splint-like activities. So we have wrist stabilization bands which are available. We can put them on wrist stabilization, which can bring down more stress on the wrist musculature. So as of now, before what I had told, if you start with those activities like crab walking, bear walking and all, definitely the hand muscles, especially the forearm muscles, might have worked out very well. And the strength also could have improved in those particular children. Still, if they feel this particular difficulty, wrist stabilization, any of the bands or wrist stabilizing agents can be given for this particular children who have a pain. Once they gain very good control, then slowly you can start to wean off from that particular stabilizers coming out. So we have got different wrist stabilizers available for children also. So we can keep the hand, which can support the wrist while writing also. So this also can be done for most of the children.
Thank you very much. And there are the listeners asking, do any changes is there between the left-handed and right-handed in the training and also in the handwriting?
So I'm not getting you. Repeat me, sir.
Is there any change in developing the handwriting, right-handed or left-handed people? And some of them listeners are asking, what is the right age to start doing the exercise along with the handwriting training? What is the right age to start the exercises, sir? As you have prescribed some of the exercises, what is the right age for them to start with the children?
Okay, so difficulty with the right-handed dominance and left-handed dominance inside the children, there is a lot of difference in each and every one. The children, as of now, since the dominance doesn't have much role to play, now the study says that since the child keeps on using a particular hand for a prolonged period of time, so the motor learning can start happening earlier before getting into the school, and this is going to help them. If they have practice, there is no any issues with the dominance. And another thing is how can they identify whether they have a difficulty with the handwriting and when then it can be started is most of the children are now going for a before to the kindergarten. You have they are able to be sent for kindergarten. They usually have a 1 year of babysitting or something. So at that time, so the children can be observed. It is the mother and the teacher who can come to know whether the child is manipulating the objects very well. These exercises is not necessary to be done for all the children, but the thing is all the child should be able to do the activities using even the fine motor skills. The child has to be taught fine motor skills. That is what is my emphasis. Gross motor activities the child will definitely do, because day to day they are giving a glass of water, it holds a glass of water and it takes a ball and throwing, all these things happens. But doing a small, taking out the pebbles and other things, and manipulating small objects and everything has to be started prior only. That is what I like to say, because developing a fine motor activity requires the development of gross motor activity first, then followed by that a lot of coordination between the muscles to develop this handwriting. So hence what I like to say is it is left to the teacher and mother who can identify very early, and we can come to know, and also they can administer the tools are there. We have the P-body, motor scales are there. Many of the fine motor and gross motor scales are there inside the physiotherapy. So they can administer any one of them to see whether they have got any type of motor dysfunction. Obviously,
Okay.
not necessary for everyone should have go for an exercise program. Only if they identify the defect, then they can go for exercise program, or else not necessary.
Thank you. Our Dr. Mallikarjunaya wants to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
He raised a hand. Dr. Mahendra, can you put Mallikarjunaya on the screen?
Hello, everyone. It was very nice to listen to a talk. It was a really wonderful and informative talk, because very rarely you will find a topic like this. And I just want to say two words about this views about this handwriting,
Yes,
because we talk about cognitive rehabilitation.
yeah.
So handwriting is a type of cognitive rehabilitation. And see, when we are in childhood till today, our parents or our teacher, usually what they say, when you study something, don't study verbally. Try to write something so you can remember much better. So mathematics, social science, whatever it is, you jolt it down or write it down for some time and you remember better. So handwriting indirectly improves the skills in the brain. What we call it as neural circuit. That is called neural circuit. So handwriting is an important tool in neurological rehabilitation when it comes to ADHD is also concerned, because some of them have asked it. So that is one view I just wanted to share. But otherwise, it was a wonderful presentation, sir. Naveen is a good friend of mine. Thank you.
It was my
Thank you very
pleasure
much.
taking the feedback from Dr. Mallikarjun, and he has added a very valuable things.
Very nice, very nice. That we were hearing from the small childhood, and even our teacher used to say that write before you learn. It's a wonderful input that you have given. And Dr. Naveen, there is a question from our listener. Is that ADHD difficulties, that is that attention deficit and hyperactivity disorders, is there any aids which can help them to rehabilitate for the handwriting? The listeners are asking the attention deficit hyperactivity disorders.
See, this particular children has to be first evaluated by a neurologist, and if they are hyperactive, they have to be a little bit have a suppression over this hyperactive disorder. So usually what they have is they have a difficulty in concentration at the one particular spot, and they usually don't try to do a particular activity for a prolonged period of time. In this particular activity, what we have to do is put them on the activities which is more tiring to them. First, we put them on a pool of balls, or we put them on a trampoline. And after that, doing some particular activity, the child becomes hyperactive, activities will come down, and it becomes a little bit hypoactive. So that particular moment of time, you can start giving the interesting objects. So the child, each and every child is having one interesting thing in their life. So you can give them different type of manipulative things at that particular moment of time. Without addressing the hyperactivity, if you try to give physiotherapy, in most of the cases, that is doing a fine motor activities, definitely child is never going to listen. We can put them on pool of balls and leave them to play in that, or we can put them on a trampoline. So where their hyperactivity is going to decrease, then we can address the activities related to the hand, which is using a pegboard or putting a lace or whatever it is. So we can do that. So that is the prerequisite for a fine motor activity.
Okay, one of the panelists want to come in.
Yeah.
So Krupa, can you go? Hello. Okay, I think they shall join later. There is one more question. How to give an handwriting training for a spastic child? Some of the questions is being asked. Can you give some hints?
This one regarding to a spastic child. See, these children doesn't come under normal schools. They will be having their special schools, and since the spasticity is present, first we have to address the spasticity. So we can start giving any one of the approaches to decrease the spasticity. Whether there is a synergistic pattern by eliciting a one particular movement, if the movements have been fired from one level to the other muscles also. So the child will be having a difficulty. So first you try to decrease the spasticity as much as possible by utilizing some of approaches which is present inside our physiotherapy. Then I think we can start with handwriting rehabilitation. But the basics of handwriting is the child should be able to hold the pencil in an appropriate position. So if the child can hold that, and you can put your pencil or pen in through its beak position, then we can try to do that. If it is not able to hold, compensatory methods can be started later on when it is not coming into control. But we can utilize, decrease the spasticity first as much as possible. Then we can go. And meanwhile, by God's grace, the child should not have any cognitive dysfunction or a perceptual dysfunction. Since it is going to be a spastic child, it might be a CPR or any other related issues might be there with the child. So cognition should be good with this child. And because of any other reasons, the spasticity is there, then we have to decrease the spasticity and progress with handwriting rehabilitation.
Okay, thank you. Anybody has questions?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
This is Kripa from Abu Dhabi. I'm an occupational therapist.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's a wonderful presentation, but I'd just like to clarify certain things because this activity-based treatments has been followed in OT, especially for handwriting, for years.
Yes, ma'am.
So do you have anything new to add to this? Because all the things that you presented, we already use it in the therapy. And
Yes,
we also go through the visual perceptual dysfunctions, the cognitive dysfunctions. We have a certain assessment tools for that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All these treatments through activities we do in occupational therapy.
Yes, ma'am.
So is there something new from physiotherapy part you can add to that? Apart from these activities which we are already doing in occupational therapy, and usually for handwriting, here in schools and everything, they are referred to the OTs, not to the PTs.
Yes, ma'am.
So do you have anything new to add from the physiotherapy part?
Ma'am, this particular presentation, I had just thought of going it with only with the hand muscle motor control. So here I was mainly focusing on the muscular weakness related to the spine and the hand related problems without any underlying pathology, so previous underlying pathology. So this could be mainly because of the learning process. So the children who have difficulty doing this particular activity. So that is why, or else the cognitive behavioral therapy and other related issues, definitely occupational therapists, they have their upper role in doing these activities. So that's why I limited this activity to only the physiotherapy related, which is mainly focusing on strengthening and motor control now.
Okay, well, that's good because I was very curious when I saw the topic and presented by a physiotherapist. That's the reason I attended this, because I wanted to know what's something new that you guys are doing from your profession. Because the things that you presented listed already, this in sensory dysfunctions, we already do the
Yes, ma'am.
The animal walks and all that to stabilize their wrist, to improve their handwriting and things like that, to facilitate even to the adult-like grasp of good handwriting.
Yes,
with handwriting assessments, even the visual perceptual dysfunctions, all that has been addressed.
Yes.
So yeah, I'd maybe just like to add a point also,
yes, ma'am. Sure.
Usually OTs and PTs are collaborating and playing a role in rehabilitation, most of the things.
Yes, true.
So in this hand rehabilitation, especially the handwriting part, years and years, we are using these techniques in OT. So, I mean, I think it's well to include that part.
Yeah, thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Naveen, there is one question. The students, when they start writing, they're getting a shivering in the hand.
Okay.
Because of that, the handwriting, they will not be able to do it for a longer time. Our listeners are asking, can you give a solution for this?
Oh, okay. The shivering which the child is facing, this one is mainly related to the maybe the child is not having a very good muscle power. So that we won't say it as a shivering. That is mainly because of the weakness the child might be experiencing this
True,
particular one.
true, true.
So we can
Maybe correct,
yeah,
maybe correct.
yeah. So
As you have said already, you addressed you in your presentation that
yes,
maybe they should start doing the strengthening from the shoulder,
yes, yes, yes.
the stability of the shoulder, and also the spinal stability. Overall, they should start giving the isolated finger exercises. I think this will definitely help to control the shivering also. Wonderful,
Yes, sir.
correct.
Rightly, sir.
Yeah,
Rightly, sir.
thank you, thank you. Any more questions? And any panelists want to come in and put your inputs inside? Dr. Mahendra, sir. Okay, I think no more questions.
I want to
Thank
ask
you.
a question. Hello, excuse me.
Tell me.
Yeah, I had asked, I'm a physiotherapist and practicing since around 15 years. I wanted to ask, as compared to girls, how we can make the boys participate in handwriting activities, because the boys are less interested in art and craft kind of things.
Okay, ma'am.
So how we can make it interesting as well as sport based, something like that?
Okay. Ma'am, you can start looking at the interest of the boy who is having this particular issue. And more of some children try to build the blocks. Some children try to use clay for a construction purpose. Based upon the interest of the child, the boys, so we can include them into this hand rehabilitation. So whenever they come looking into physiotherapy clinic, or just when they, what are the things which they are interested, just you have to find out. Depending upon that, we can start doing, because all the children are interested in one or the other way. Boys, especially when they are, boys, especially when they are doing all these activities, I think we can give them indoor activities more. Boys try to play more of outdoor activities like
Yeah.
playing football or cricket and all these activities. So the different sets of the fine motor activities, which like carom, chess, or anything like that, which can be given to the child. If it is interested, then we can limit them to sit at one place and do the fine motor activity.
No, but
Depends upon, yes, ma'am.
yeah, sorry to interrupt, but if the child is a normal, see, I am asking about my son only.
Yes, ma'am.
He is 8 years old, okay?
Okay,
And now he is more interested in outdoor activities as compared to this carom and all.
yes, yes, yes.
Dr. Naveen, can I step in here?
Yes, sir,
Madam,
yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
what you can see, what you can do is, this is the age they will be tend to attract outside the games. They want rewards. So
Yes.
especially these ages, no. So they will be waiting for rewards. If they're playing outside, if they play cricket, so 1-4 hits, so people will be clapping. So what you can do is give a fine motor activities within the house. You can start doing by yourself. So put a games like already Dr. Naveen has told. Give a puzzle activities. Make sure once or twice he will win in the puzzle whenever you are playing. Then he will be motivated. Tomorrow he will himself ask, let me play one more time today. So until they start activities of fine motor, so they will not be interested. And also you should start giving a reward that he is winning. So something, the winning, the claps, the tap is needed for them to go ahead. So you start giving this, and the rewards which you give, the participation will become more.
Okay, I will try. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, welcome. Any more question, Dr. Mahendra, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Manjunath, sir. On behalf of Karnataka State Physiotherapy Federation, I thank Dr. Manjunath, sir, for being the moderator for this session, and
Thank
also
you very
Dr.
much,
Naveen,
sir.
who's
Pleasure.
thank you, Dr. Naveen, who's explained this wonderfully, and hope all the people who have attended this webinar have gained some knowledge into it, and they will use it daily in their practice and help patients out of this. I thank you very much. Tomorrow we have another webinar that's going to be held up. We will be shortly releasing the details. The webinar would be conducted by Dr. Basuraj Nanjanavar, and we will have a series of webinars that would follow. So you will be able to access to good knowledge about with senior therapists across Karnataka who would be being a part of it. I would want everyone to be a part of it and share knowledge and gain knowledge. Thank you so much, everyone. So we'll sign off today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
Right,
very
sir?
much, and thank you, Dr. Naveen.
Thank you,
So
sir.
your presentation was a unique, and it was the physiotherapist thinking out of the box. Where now,
Thank you, sir. Thank
so
you, sir.
this is not very commonly seen, but it is a very nice presentation. It has given a lot of input for refreshing me and also our listeners. Thank you very much, and I am very happy that I was a moderator for you. And thank you very much, and God bless you. God bless you all. Thank you, Karnataka State Physiotherapy Federation, for giving a good platform for Dr. Naveen and for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Dr.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
Thank you, Dr. Naveen. Thank
Dr.
you,
Sai
everyone.
Mahendra and Dr.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Lokesh. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
sir.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.